Privilege. Privilege has been defined as an unearned entitlement, something given to a select few for nothing. But what really is privilege?
For me, privilege is something you possess but not necessarily earn. For example, you were given an opportunity to do something, or you were born with some sort of rights, and these possessions sometimes other people don't have. So for me, I have the privilege to be educated and to go study abroad in the US, but a lot of people in my country might not have the same privilege.
I feel like privilege is when you have certain advantages that other people don't.
I feel like when we talk about privilege, we know what we're talking about, but I don't know if privilege is the right word. And that there's a lot of the people that are supposedly privileged. It's not that they're privileged, it's that minorities lack a lot of basic human rights.
I think privilege for me is like an outcome of luck.
So privilege is the absence of obstacles.
Privilege is me having something strictly because somebody else doesn't have it.
I guess in relation to other people maybe outside of America, I do, but not within America just because of my race and my gender.
Not at all. As a personal feeling, I do not feel privileged. However, I would assume, and I would guess, that I have been the beneficiary of a lot of different things.
I was born in high caste thing in the Indian society, so that was luck. But then the way I lived and the way I was treated, that was the privilege. So,
being a white male does guarantee you certain privilege whether you want them or not. But in certain facets, I'm also very underprivileged in that being an international student in the United States is a pretty difficult situation.
If you compare me to the people, my friends there in Nepal, I'm totally privileged because I'm living a higher standard of living than they are.
To visualize privilege, volunteers participated in the Privilege Walk. 17 Soka students responded to 26 different statements.
Step forward if you have regular access to clean drinking water.
Okay.
Step back if you have a diagnosis with a mental or physical disease. Step forward if you have never feared sexual assault. Step back if you have had to worry about listening.
Step forward if you have never been embarrassed by the clothes or house you had growing up. Step back if you have been bullied based on something you can't change.
Step forward if you come from a supportive family environment.
Step forward if you have never had to worry about the cost of your college education. Step back if your religious views conflict with the religious view of the majority of your community. Step back if you feel unsafe walking alone in a foreign or unfamiliar environment.
Step back if you have been told that you are not capable because of your gender. Step forward if you are able to show affection to your romantic partner in public without fear. Step back if your family depends on you as a source of income.
I think for me, even though I was kind of in the back, I felt just reading those questions one by one, I felt really, really blessed to have a family that supported me, because a lot of questions did involve family, I felt like, and how my parents played a role in my life, and just reflecting on that in particular. It was impactful because you don't think about the privileges you have until you're confronted with them.
I was
like very upfront, but I was still behind like 3 or 4 people, mostly boys. But I was still like much further ahead than most of the girls there. I was really surprised at how far my friends were back. I guess because like, especially when the question of like family support came up, I moved forward and I realized like most people were moving backwards, and I was like kind of shocked by that. And it made me really appreciate and like just feel a lot of gratitude for my family. And I never thought of it as something that's privilege. Like it was just, I've always had them.
There were questions on the list that didn't have to do with race and didn't have to do with gender and didn't have to do with socioeconomic status, that like things like mental disability or physical disability or is English your first language, and those things really, yeah, and that's what this whole discussion about privilege is about, right? It's about recognizing that some things that you take for granted other people don't have.
I anticipated that there might be at least one person in front of me, maybe 2. I did not expect myself to be the only one at the head of the pack. And so it surprised me looking back as well. Many of the things that were discussed in that activity were things that I would either take for granted or consider basic necessities or basic things that without one is not necessarily privileged, but simply disadvantaged.
I was very shocked actually that a lot of Americans were behind me, and next to me is Eiichi, and he's from Japan, and then Pierre was above me, and MK was also above me, and I sort of expected most American to be above me, but it's not true. And what I find even more surprising is a lot of American behind me are white, Caucasian.
I mean, I guess we always think about like our own denied privilege and like how in relation it is to us, but I guess you never think about like there are people who are outside of just people in your ethnicity group that face similar struggles to you.
It's a little bit more nebulous now. After seeing that, it's a lot harder to define. I still think it has something to do with, something that somebody has because somebody else doesn't have it. Yeah, so it's kind of like subversive and invisible. I don't know. It's a lot more confusing now.
It's definitely an arbitrary thing where it's based on the contextual situation of a person.
Privilege can vary, and that privilege isn't something that's just like solid, and that you can't only attack it from one, or you can't really look at it from one aspect because it's so diverse and too many, like anybody can define it differently.
I still think privilege is possession that you were given and you don't necessarily earned. But I will add something is privilege is similar to objective enjoyment. You are not aware that you have it until you compare yourself to other people or until that thing is taken away from you.
My definition of privilege has changed to include that it includes things that you would take for granted. That's simply it.